Welcome to Creating Dementia Solutions. I'm Richard Pyatt. This is a Miles for Memories program and podcast, and we're glad you found us. Click the like on the Miles for Memories Facebook page so you're alerted when these episodes come available, and follow along with us. Today, as you know, we've been focusing for a while on our discussions that are particularly useful for caregivers. Today we're going to talk a little bit about traveling with a loved one who's living with dementia. Stacy Wines is here from CareWell Services, a Miles for Memories volunteer. Hi, Stacy.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, thank you. It's been a while since I've seen you,
Yes.
so welcome back.
Thank you.
So this is a significant list of considerations. It may not be terribly long, but it is significant, right? The notion of traveling with someone who has dementia, and maybe you're concerned about surroundings and
Absolutely.
planning and all of these things. What are some of the challenges that are associated with this?
Well, I think first and foremost, you have to remember that traveling with your loved one is something that is still going to bring joy. It's going to bring joy for both of you. So that don't look at it as doom and gloom, but yes, you do have to approach it differently. So I think the first thing comes with, if they're not used to traveling, and let's say you're going to do a trip across state lines, maybe a longer trip, like the last one I took with my husband who has dementia, we went down to Tennessee, and some people would do a trip in like a short-term one, like maybe let's just go up to Grand Rapids for an evening to see how they do in the different surroundings.
A test, maybe.
Which is hard because money is tight, but that is a good suggestion. And what that will do is see how they perform in other surroundings, see what things that they really wish they had from home that you didn't bring, that you didn't think you should bring, that you should pack. So that's one of them. And another thing is just sitting down and looking at the interests that you have together. You don't want it to be one-sided, so it can't be all about me going to jewelry shops and shoe shops, like those shoe stores. Where my husband would like to check out the knife stores and the gun stores and stuff like that. So plan that together, make them as much of a part of it as you possibly can.
So how do you mitigate any other challenges that might be going on? I mean, how do you balance that? So it is joyful and fun, but there are these considerations.
Yes.
Right?
I'm not saying it's not stressful.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that at all. However, with those other challenges, you have to look at how are you going to travel. If it's going to be other than you driving, maybe call the airline ahead of time saying, I'm traveling with somebody who has dementia. What can I do to help him? What can you do to help me help him or her? I know you said your mom lives with Alzheimer's. So you can also, if it is calling ahead and just saying, hey, I'd like if you're traveling by bus or train, try to get seated by a restroom. That's easier. Some people, like my husband, love scenery. Let's get him a window seat. That's different when you're traveling on a plane. That's a little bit easier, but if you get your tickets ahead of time. But other places, that's not so easy. So just be aware of things that they like and try to also bring those on whatever form of transportation you're using. If you are traveling and driving yourself by car, make sure you take a lot of breaks so they can get out and stretch. That's good for anybody, but especially somebody living with dementia, to try to reset their thought and they're not so agitated, get some energy out.
Sometimes the passage of time is not easily measured by someone living with dementia, but sitting in a car a long time, it might actually be.
A lot of disorientation will come along with that. I have witnessed that myself with my husband. So, yeah.
All right. What should they have when they go on a trip?
Great question. So besides your obvious things like your medication, I'm going to talk about what I have found helpful. I don't know, for our listeners who've had kids, I would always, when we went to Michigan's Adventure or Cedar Point, my kids would wear a very obnoxious bright neon color so I could spot them in a crowd. Now, I can't put my husband in anything that obnoxious, but it has something to do, a different color that I can identify him. So it's not going to be the gray, it's not going to be the white, it's going to be something that stands out. And I also make sure that he has the Miles from Memory bracelet that I know we have talked about several times on this program. He has one, and I have one as the caregiver. So in addition to that, you want to make sure he has identification, and I did some research on this, and they said make sure the identification is actually sewn in or attached in somehow to what they're wearing when you're traveling. That's a good idea for anything, really, depending on how far advanced they are.
Sure.
Yeah, because hats can be left behind. Like a neon hat wouldn't work. Wallet could be left behind, all those sort of things. So.
Well, so that's a great idea about the color, because then, as you say, you're scanning a large crowd, it might be easier to spot them.
Just on that too, another thing that I always do is I take a picture of what my husband's wearing that day. So if we go back to the hotel and we take a nap, and he puts on a different shirt, I take a different picture. So just in case he decides to wander, he could be just wandering because of dementia, he could be wandering because I'm ornery, he wants to get away from me. So depending on whichever, I'm going to find him.
And if you have to share with someone what he's wearing, you have a record of that.
Right, absolutely.
Wow, that's a great idea. How do you get ready? And this is something that I know some folks deal with. The ability to put together a plan, to think about what you need to take with you, and then gather all of that is no longer something that comes easily. So how do you prepare for
That's
that?
huge, and it's going to look different for everybody. My husband is a very person of comfort creature. He's not going to want, we're going to Hawaii. He's not going to want a Hawaiian shirt. He's going to want his T-shirt that says Detroit Lions. So I have to be respectful of that. But for the other things, it's truly, for us at least, it's like packing for any other trip.
Yes.
It truly is just what he's comfortable in. I tend to overpack for him because once we get there, they sometimes want to be more like the culture that they're seeing, but they can't wrap their mind around that at the time. It's too abstract, right?
I see.
So, yes, you do need these shorts, or you do need sandals. So the best thing there is hopefully somebody else can come and distract them, or her, take them out for dinner, lunch, an errand while you pack, and take that out, completely out of their hands.
And I can see how that would be helpful, because now a caregiver has taken over responsibility for the task of packing, but yet your loved one is trying to help.
Right.
And that ends up not being helpful sometimes.
Right, and their reasoning isn't as great as it used to be, as you know, so,
Yeah, that's a big thing for my mother, is the packing part is no longer in her zone. So we've got to take care of that for her. Talk about, if you don't mind, the notion of a caregiver who might be concerned about taking a person with dementia somewhere where they're unfamiliar. And is that a significant consideration? So you want to take them somewhere, but you don't want them to be suddenly upset because they're not familiar with the surroundings.
Right. As much as you can front load as possible is best. Now, they may not remember that, depending on where they are in their stage of the disease. Don't leave them alone, ever, as I have found. Do not do that, because then they get scared that maybe the loved one, the caregiver, they've wandered off. So be careful of that. I have also learned with my husband is when we get to the places, we'll take pictures and they're on his phone. So then he does a lot of scrolling through his pictures, and he sees that. And I always make sure, again, they may or may not remember, just like when I had the little kids at Michigan's Adventure, if you get lost, you go to the person in the green shirt. So I see whatever the staff is wearing and tell them about that too. I introduce the staff to him so they know if they see him out wandering. I think that's one of the most important things you can do.
Wow.
And just reassure them. Yeah, because you can have those cards that you can take with your loved one that my loved one has dementia, or Pete can give somebody something that says I'm living with dementia. And so, yeah.
So when you say take pictures with their phone of some of the places that you've been frequenting, and so when they see that, it reminds them. Is that what you mean?
Yes, and also when we get into the room itself, you know, the last place we went to, we were up on the 3rd floor, so we took a picture of us standing there with it behind us so he could see that, okay, this is the unit that we're in and stuff like that.
I see. So is it a good idea, let's say you're in a hotel, is it a good idea to take a picture of the room number or something?
It's been helpful for me.
Yeah.
He's not as far advanced as what I believe your mother is, so you really need to find what works for you, but for us it works well to do that. But again, the most important thing is you let the staff there know that you're traveling with somebody with Alzheimer's, dementia, cognitive decline.
So think about this. There are folks who travel with RVs, for example. So the surroundings of the RV may be familiar, but then open a door and they might not recognize where they are. Is that a complication? Is that
I would
difficult?
think so. I don't have experience with that, but I can tell you I've been doing a lot of traveling for work lately, and even I wake up, it's like, where am I today? You know, so I can only imagine somebody who has cognitive decline. So I think what I would do there is just, again, do as much front loading as I can when they wake up. Talk to them about, okay, so today we're in Colorado and we're going to go out and we're going to see the mountains, and we're going to, you know, when we open the door, we'll remember that pretty stream, and just try to get them prepared for it as much as possible.
Yeah, to have that conversation before the door opens.
Absolutely. Yeah, and just be there and reassure as much as possible.
Carewell Services, just briefly, is a conduit to Miles for Memories in a lot of ways, isn't it? You meet folks who might end up coming to Miles for Memories as a resource. Is that true?
Absolutely. Yeah, we, especially with certain programs we have, that just opens the door for them to come in to talk with us. And Miles for Memory is definitely one that we refer to on a weekly, if not a daily basis, for people to get help, not only for those living with the disease, but living with dementia, Alzheimer's, whatever that may be, but also for their caregivers, which is so important, because if you're not taking care of the caregiver, you cannot have somebody thriving and living with dementia, which you can live a happy life with dementia, obviously up to a certain point where you know the disease takes over.
Right. Well, we appreciate hearing everything that you've had to say today. You've given us a lot to think about, Stacey.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Stacey Wines, Carewell Services, with us here on Creating Dementia Solutions. In fact, Stacey mentioned that Miles for Memories bracelet. Been a little while since we've talked about that, but that episode is in the bank. We'll link that in the show notes so you can go back and have a listen. But a terrific set of technology and options that help your loved one be identified if they were to wander. So check that out. And don't forget, Facebook, Miles for Memories Michigan. Click the like on that. Creating Dementia Solutions, I'm Richard Pyatt. Thank you.